I want you to hear me clearly. The night my husband tried to humiliate me in front of everyone, he thought I was the quiet wife who knew nothing. He thought I was just standing beside him with a soft smile, holding my glass, looking beautiful and obedient. He thought I was still the woman who trusted him with every dollar, every dream, and every piece of my heart. But he was wrong. Because for months, while he was gambling with my savings, hiding debt behind fake confidence, and telling people he was building a future for us, I was watching everything. I was counting every lie. And when he finally tried to break me in front of a room full of people, I took one breath, looked him in the eye, and ended his lie in front of everyone. That night, he lost more than his pride. He lost the life he had built on deception. And I lost the last piece of the woman who once believed love meant staying silent. My name is Elena, and this is the story of how my husband tried to make me look foolish and ended up exposing himself instead. I was 34 years old when this happened, and from the outside, my life looked perfect. We lived in a beautiful house in a quiet neighborhood outside Chicago. We had a clean white kitchen, a polished living room, and a backyard with string lights that made everything look warm and peaceful at night. People used to say we were the perfect couple. My husband Mark had that kind of smile people trusted right away. He knew how to shake hands, how to laugh at the right moment, how to speak just loudly enough for people to notice him. He had a gift for making himself look important. And me, I was the calm one, the organized one. The woman who made sure the bills were paid, the groceries were in the fridge, and the house stayed standing while life kept moving. I worked as a financial analyst for a consulting firm downtown. Numbers were my world. I loved order. I loved patterns. I loved seeing the truth inside data that other people ignored. That is probably why I noticed the change in Mark before anyone else did. At first, it was small things. He started checking his phone too often. He became defensive when I asked simple questions. He stopped talking about our future and started talking about opportunities. "Baby, I just need a little more time," he would say. "I'm close to something big." I remember one night, I found him sitting at the dining table at 2 a.m., staring at his laptop with bloodshot eyes. "What are you doing?" I asked. He closed it too fast. "Just looking at some investment stuff." I sat down across from him. "At this hour?" He smiled in that same easy way. "You know me. I like to stay ahead." I wanted to believe him. I really did. We had been married for 7 years. 7 years of shared birthdays, sick days, late-night takeout, inside jokes, and all the small things that make a marriage feel real. I thought we were building something together. So when he told me he wanted to grow our money, I listened. He said he had found a way to make a strong return through a private investment group. He used words like leverage, timing, and momentum. He made it sound smart, safe, strategic, and because I handled our finances, he kept saying he trusted me to understand. But what I didn't know was that he wasn't investing our money. He was gambling, and when the first losses came, he hid them. Then he borrowed more. Then he lied again. Then he borrowed against things I had put aside for our future. My emergency savings. My bonus from work. The account I had built slowly, over years, because I always believed a woman should never be completely powerless. He emptied it piece by piece. And every time I asked, he had another excuse. Transfer error. Temporary hold. Market delay. I believed enough to keep going. Not because I was naive, because I loved him. And love, when you are honest, can make even the smartest person slow to see what is right in front of them. The first real crack came when I got a letter from the bank. I opened it in the kitchen while my coffee was still hot. There was a loan notice in Mark's name. A large one. And then another. And then a credit alert tied to accounts I had never heard of. I stood there frozen, holding the papers with shaking hands. When he walked in, I asked him one question. "Why is there a debt notice for nearly $80,000? He didn't answer right away. That pause told me enough. Then he gave me a half smile. The kind people wear when they think they can charm their way out of trouble. "It's temporary," he said. "I'm managing it." Managing it, I repeated. Mark, that is not an answer. He walked past me and set his keys down on the counter. You're overreacting. That word, overreacting. It is amazing how men use that word when they are standing inside a lie they think they can control. I need the truth, I said. He looked at me, irritated now. He wanted to make me feel ignorant. He wanted me to shrink. He wanted everyone to see him as the smart one and me as the quiet wife who didn't matter. He had no idea that I had spent the last 6 weeks building a complete financial record of his destruction. He had no idea that I had already spoken to the bank. He had no idea that I had already printed the debt history. He had no idea that I had recorded the evidence, item by item, in a file on my phone and a copy in my bag. I turned to him slowly, and I said, "Are you sure you want to keep talking about money in front of everyone?" He smiled, thinking I was joking. "Of course," he said. "Why not?" So I set my glass down. I looked at the people around us, and in a calm, steady voice I said, "Because the money you've been bragging about doesn't exist. At least not anymore. And if everyone here wants to know why, I can explain." The room changed immediately. You could feel it. Conversations stopped. Someone near the bar lowered their drink. Mark's smile froze, but only for a second. Then he gave a short laugh. "What are you talking about?" I reached into my bag and took out a thin folder. "I'm talking about the $80,000 debt in your name," I said. "The 3 online gambling accounts, the cash advances, the transfers from our shared savings, the loan you took out without telling me, the credit cards opened in your name and used to cover losses." The air in the room turned cold. His face changed. First confusion, then anger, then panic. "You're making a scene," he hissed under his breath. "No," I said. "You made a scene when you decided to lie to me and then embarrass me in front of everyone." He stepped closer. "Put that away." I shook my head. "I'm not done." And then I did something I will never forget as long as I live. I began reading the truth out loud. Not all of it. Just enough. Date. Amounts. Transactions. Bank names. Account numbers. Transfers to gambling sites. Repeated withdrawals late at night. A loan taken against our joint emergency fund. A second debt account opened in secret. And then the final line that broke the room open. "You didn't invest our savings, Mark. You lost them." There was no laughter now. No polite smiles. No pretending. Just silence. Deep, brutal silence. His mother looked shocked. His sister stared at him like she had never seen him before. One of the executives he was trying to impress slowly set down his drink. Mark's jaw tightened. "You had no right to go through my private information." I almost smiled. "Private?" I said. "You used my savings. You used our joint accounts. You used my trust. You turned my future into your gambling fund. There was nothing private about your betrayal." He looked around the room, desperate now, trying to recover control. "Listen," he said, forcing a laugh. "She's upset. She's emotional. You know how these things go." That word again. Emotional. As if women are never allowed to be accurate when they are angry. As if evidence disappears just because a man says the woman holding it is upset. I opened the folder and held it up. "Since you like talking about what I understand," I said, "let me show everyone exactly what I understand." And I handed copies to the nearest people. Printed statements. Screenshots. A timeline. Every transfer highlighted. Every gambling account listed. Every debt documented. I had made it all clean, clear, and impossible to deny. Mark looked at the pages in people's hands, and I watched the truth hit him in waves. This was the moment men like him never prepare for. Not being caught. Being seen. Because when a lie is only between 2 people, it can survive on confusion. But when you place the facts under bright lights, it starts to die. One of the investors looked at Mark and said quietly, "Is this true?" Mark swallowed hard. "It's complicated," I answered before he could keep lying. No, it's not, I said. It's simple. He took money that did not belong to him. He hid debt. He lied to me for months. And when I began noticing the missing money, he tried to make me look foolish instead of telling the truth. A woman near the back whispered, "Oh my God." Mark's face had gone pale now. He turned to me with a look I had seen only once or twice before, when he knew he had lost control. "You planned this," he said. I met his eyes. "Yes," I said. "I did. The moment I realized you were using my life to cover your failures, I started planning." He looked angry now, not because he was innocent, but because he had been outsmarted by the very woman he underestimated. "You're humiliating me!" I took a small breath. "That's interesting," I said. "Because you didn't seem worried about humiliating me." A few people shifted uncomfortably. Because they knew. Not the full story. Maybe. But enough. Enough to understand what kind of man stands in front of his wife's dignity and chips away at it just to make himself feel bigger. Mark stepped forward, lowering his voice, trying one final time to pull me back into private submission. "Please," he said. "Not here." And that is when I realized something important. He wasn't apologizing. He was bargaining. Not with remorse. With damage control. He did not want forgiveness. He wanted privacy. He wanted me to protect him from consequences. He wanted the quiet wife back. But I was not that woman anymore. I looked at him and said, "You should have thought about that before you used my name to hide your gambling." That ended him. Not legally, not yet. But emotionally, socially, publicly, the room was no longer his. People began leaving the conversation. Bones came out. Whispers spread. His confidence collapsed in real time. And then, before he could speak again, his sister Linda turned to him and asked the question that probably hurt him more than anything else that night. "How long?" Mark said nothing. "How long have you been lying to us?" Still nothing. I answered for him. Long enough to believe he could keep getting away with it. And that was the moment I saw his face change in a way I had never seen before. Not because he felt sorry. Because he realized he had lost the story. Until that night, he had controlled the narrative. At home, he was the driven husband. At family gatherings, he was the ambitious man taking risks for a better life. At parties, he was the one making the bold moves. But now the truth was in the open. He wasn't a builder. He was a borrower. He wasn't a strategist. He was a gambler. He wasn't protecting our future. He was stealing from it. And everyone could see it. After that, the event was over for us. The room never fully recovered. People pretended to keep talking, but the energy had changed. The celebration was dead. The polished surface of his life had cracked wide open. Later, in the parking garage, Mark followed me in a rage. "Are you happy now?" he snapped. "You destroyed me!" I stopped walking and turned to face him. "No," I said quietly. "You destroyed yourself. I just stopped helping you hide it." He looked stunned, maybe because I said it without anger. That is the thing about real power. It does not always shout. Sometimes it stands in a dress, under a parking garage light, and speaks the truth in a steady voice. He tried again, softer this time. "Why didn't you just come to me?" I laughed once, but there was no humor in it. "Come to you?" I said. "I gave you every chance to tell me the truth. You called me dramatic. You called me suspicious. You called me controlling. You asked me to trust you while you were emptying our accounts." He looked away. I continued. "I didn't expose you because I wanted revenge. I exposed you because I refused to let you rewrite what happened. That sentence matters. Because lies do not only steal money, they steal memory. They make the victim question what they saw, what they felt, what they know. I would not let him do that to me. The divorce was ugly, but not as ugly as the deception had been. The debts had to be sorted out. The accounts were frozen. The lawyers stepped in. The financial records I had kept became the backbone of everything that followed. And in the end, His attempts to manipulate the situation only made things worse for him. His employer heard about the debt and the dishonesty. The investors backed away. The family image he had built collapsed. The man who once mocked my caution was suddenly drowning in the consequences of his own reckless choices. As for me, I kept my job. I kept my savings. I kept my dignity. And slowly, I kept my peace. It did not happen overnight. Some mornings I still woke up with the weight of betrayal sitting in my chest. Some nights I still replayed the ballroom, the silence, the faces, the moment his mask fell. But with time, I began to understand that I had not just survived his betrayal. I had outgrown the version of myself that would have stayed quiet to keep a broken peace. That is what this story is really about. Not just money, not just debt, not even the humiliation. It is about the moment a woman realizes that love without honesty is just another kind of prison. It is about what happens when a man mistakes patience for weakness. It is about what happens when a wife who knows numbers decides to stop ignoring the facts. And it is about the kind of strength that does not come from shouting first. It comes from waiting, watching, and speaking only when the truth is ready. People ask me now whether I felt scared that night. The honest answer is yes. I was scared. My hands were cold. My heart was pounding. But I was more afraid of spending the rest of my life pretending I did not see what was happening. That fear was stronger. And it carried me through. So if you are listening to this and something in your life feels off, I want to say this gently but clearly. Do not ignore the pattern. Do not let charm blind you to behavior. Do not let someone call you dramatic for noticing what is real. And never, ever confuse silence with peace. Sometimes silence is only the waiting room before truth walks in. That night, Mark thought he was teaching me my place. Instead, he taught everyone in that room exactly who he was. And me? I learned something even more important. I learned that the strongest thing a woman can do is not scream when she is betrayed. It is to collect the facts, stand in the truth, and when the time comes, speak so clearly that no lie can survive the sound of her voice. Because once a woman like that speaks, the room changes, the story changes, and the man who thought he was in control finally understands what he lost. Not just his money, not just his image, but the woman who once loved him enough to protect him from the truth. And once that woman is gone, he will never get her back. That was the night I stopped being the wife he could fool. That was the night I became the woman he could never outsmart. And that, more than anything, was my real victory.